Hello, my name's Eugene Scardifield. Back in 2015, my brother was unfortunately brutally murdered. And since then, I've been trying to change people's mindsets on murder and manslaughter, and how it's perceived in the media, social media, and general day-to-day life, trying to eradicate that elephant in the room. My brother was a gentle giant. He was one of the most kind-hearted people, obviously, you meet, and obviously that may sound biased because I'm his brother, but I don't think I've ever, heard anybody say a bad word about my brother. Um, he was the type of person that if you turned up on his doorstep and you was hungry, and he only had one tin of beans in the cupboard, he would get out 2 spoons and he would share that tin of beans with you. Um, and people have got such a mindset about murder because of the way it's portrayed, the stigma around it, the elephant in the room. People tend to think because of the media, it's either gang related, race related, addiction related, but statistically that isn't true. Statistically, those only count for approximately 10% of murders in this country. So and I have been for the last 5 years, trying to change that. People say there's no smoke without fire. Unfortunately, when it comes to murder and manslaughter, there is. My brother was round a friend of his, having a couple of drinks, just a sociable thing in the afternoon. This lad turned up that was a friend of a friend, shall we say. Not entirely sure how well my brother knew him, but my brother liked to see the best in everyone. My brother liked to be the ear that people could chew on, the shoulder that people could cry on. He liked to try and see the best in everyone. So when they was at this house, the lad who owned the house, he had to get on with other things, so people had to disperse. So my brother invited this lad around for a couple of vodkas, a few drinks, a bit of music. Thought they could sit there and have a chat. But this guy obviously had other things in mind. 2 people walked into my brother's and only one person walked out, and that was the perpetrator. So this was the 30th of May, when my brother's life was taken. The 30th of May was also my cousin's birthday. She passed away from cystic fibrosis when she was 6 years of age. So every year I'll go down to her grave and I'll put flowers down on her grave. This particular year, 2015, I had my children, so I couldn't go to the grave that day. So I was going the next day after I took the kids home to their mum. So I dropped my children off. I'm driving down the road, all of a sudden my phone rings. It comes up no number or number unknown. So I pull over, answer the phone, and it's piercing screams of my mother. The police were there, it's Michael. He's dead. And just that, in that moment, it felt like I'd been punched in the stomach and in the throat at the same time. I couldn't breathe. I felt sick. And at that point, I didn't even know that Michael had been murdered. All I knew that he was dead. And I couldn't understand why. It was only when I made my way to my mum's that I was then given the further devastating news that someone had taken my brother's life. And it just, still to this day, don't make sense. It don't make sense to me at all. Michael was the most unconfrontational person you could ever meet. He didn't like fights. He didn't like anything like that. If he was in a pub and a fight kicked off round the other side, he would leave. He wasn't a violent person in the slightest. So trying to come to terms or comprehend why anybody would want to hurt my brother, let alone murder him, just I still struggle with it today. We all live in Portsmouth, but Michael was living in Stoke. So my mum obviously got the family together, obviously at my mum's, including my cousins, my aunties, uncles, brothers, sisters, But then my mum obviously had to go to Stoke to be there the next day to formally identify Michael. So, yeah, Mum went that day, that Sunday. The thing is, again, my mum's birthday was the day before. My mum's birthday is the 29th of May. So she was celebrating her birthday when Michael was getting murdered. Normally, Mum has a barbecue for her birthday every year because it normally falls on a bank holiday. So Mike would always come down for Mum's birthday, but because Mum was going on holiday, she decided not to have a barbecue. So, you know, obviously there's the guilt there for my mum that if she had had her barbecue, then Mike would have been there and he'd still be alive. But yeah, so Mum had to go to Stoke, and then Mum went that day on the Sunday, and then the rest of us went up on the Monday to go to the chapel arrest. Well, it's a hospital mortuary, actually, it's not even a chapel arrest, to go and see Mike. And then we went to his flat and laid some flowers and stuff. But you know, it's something you've never been before, don't ever expect to go through, so you don't really know the processes and the steps, and until you know, you speak to the family liaison officer. We had two. The first one wasn't very professional at all. When I got to the hospital, well, when we all got to the hospital, I had my other brother with me as well, Darren. It's the first time I'd ever met this family liaison officer, and we was literally met him outside the waiting room to the hospital mortuary. And the first thing he did, well, said to me and my brother Darren, he just looked us up and down and went, "Don't think about taking this into your own hands." Yeah, exactly that. And I walked away, trying to prepare myself in any possible way. At that point, I was still massively in denial. That is not my brother in there. I was even praying that it was just a sick joke. And I was going to go in there and Mike was going to jump out and everything was going to be all right. But it wasn't. And I got this guy standing there saying this to me. I lost all respect for that man in that moment. And like I say, I walked away. I didn't even talk to him. And it doesn't matter what you think you've seen on TV about CSI and CSI and Law and Order and all the rest of these programs that show you these dead bodies. It's not even close. You couldn't put an age limit on what the body, what your loved one actually looks like. It's difficult. It's very, very difficult. And even then, when I was in there and I was looking at this body, I still just wanted to believe that it was all a dummy and makeup. I didn't want to believe that that was my brother laying there, lifeless. His skin was ice. I could still feel his cold forehead on my lips when I had to kiss him goodbye. Oh, a white feather's just dropped down outside, sorry. The perpetrator, and I'm not even going to give him the satisfaction of saying his name on video. He's not worth it. So I'll just call him the perpetrator. After he murdered my brother, he pretty much went and bragged to 6 people that he did it. My brother had the nickname Milky, and he went around telling people that he choked Milky until his legs stopped kicking. He tried to hide in someone's flat, but they pretty much handed him over to the police. So, in one sense, fortunate, he was apprehended straight away, the same day. But from then on, you get a plea in case management where they got into their plea. That got postponed, I think it was 6 or 7 times. So that was the drawn out process. Then we had the trial. And at the trial, I think he changed his story 4 times, 5 times. So he was very, very reluctant on telling the truth. He'd been caught countless times in his life for violent offences, knife offences, violent offences, all sorts. And he'd always walked from court. He always got away from it. So I think he had this very, very cocky nature, and probably thought that again he was going to walk from court. There was no remorse at all. He sat there biting his fingernails, staring at the ceiling, wasn't really listening to anyone. And this really infuriated me. I'm not, I can't say for the whole family, but I think I spent more time watching him than anything else, really. I tried to listen to witness statements and the barristers and the rest of it, but I was so preoccupied on his reaction. I just wanted to see something, some form of remorse, some form of guilt, just something, but there was nothing. Even when the sentence was handed down and he was given an 18 years minimum, nothing. There was nothing, no remorse, there was no tears, no guilt, there was literally nothing. It was like he didn't care. And that just adds to it, because we still don't know why he did what he did. He won't give an accurate account of what happened. He won't be man enough to tell the truth. He won't accept any responsibility for what he did. He took my brother's life. So, in my opinion, if you take someone's life, you should be stripped of all human rights. You shouldn't get the opportunity to see the light of day again. He took that choice from my brother. So why should he get that chance again? I think to a certain degree, yeah, he is a product of his of circumstance and situation. As far as I'm aware, his father was a nasty piece of work and a heroin dealer. But I think certain choices he made was his own. I mean, he was a pathological liar. For some reason, he managed, not in this case, but in another case, he managed to persuade the judge that he was schizophrenic, and the reason why he did what he did was because his medication wasn't high enough, and no one checked on it. No one actually done a psych evaluation on him at that point. And they just went, okay then, just up your medication and you can go. He basically read in a book or seen in a film somewhere about schizophrenia and decided to use it for his own benefit. When they done a full psych, they done I think it was 3-month psych evaluation on him before the trial. They found there was nothing wrong with him. There was actually nothing, because he tried to play the diminished responsibility and being schizophrenic. After actually having a proper psych evaluation, there was nothing wrong with him. He was just a horrible bastard.